You wake up 10,000 years ago. It's the coldest part of the night, and someone's foot is nudging your ribs, which is how you learn where you sit in this household. The fire has burned down to a dull orange bed. Somebody has to be awake for it. That somebody is you, and it has been you every night since you were tall enough to carry a log, and it will be you until a younger person is born and survives long enough to take the job. So you sit up in the dark and you feed it, and you sit there and you watch it eat. The cold you can live with, and the lost sleep. What gets you, eventually, is that the fire is always eating. It converts an armful of the world into an hour of warmth, and then it's hungry again, and the wood line has moved half a morning's walk further out since your grandmother's time. And it will keep moving, because there is no arrangement of sticks that makes a fire stop needing sticks. What you want is a thing that is warm and does not eat. You are aware this is a stupid thing to want. You find it anyway, and you find it by accident, the way everything gets found. There's a seam of heavy black ore in the cut above the river, so heavy that a fist of it drags your hand down, and you carry a piece around for a while because it's strange. And on a night cold enough to crack stone, you notice the piece in your pouch is warm. You take it out and put it on a flat rock and sit with it. It stays warm. It's still warm at first light. It is warm the next night and the night after that, and it doesn't shrink, and there's no smoke, and nothing about it is smaller than when you picked it up. In the dark, if you look at the crumbling edge of it long enough, there's a faint green sitting on the surface that isn't a reflection of anything. You have found something on fire that is not burning. Nothing you know how to think about covers this. The other thing you notice takes longer, because it takes weeks. The hand you carry it in develops a sore that won't close, in a spot where nothing hits you. You put the rock in a pouch on a cord instead, and some months later there's a sore where the pouch rested. You are being injured by something that never touches you and leaves no mark going in. You start keeping it in a pit outside. And you are the first person in history to be right about that for the wrong reasons. Turns out you aren't the first to be baffled by it. A man leaves uranium salts sitting on a wrapped photographic plate in a closed drawer, expecting nothing, and finds the plate fogged as though it had been out in daylight. Henri Becquerel, 1896. One of the few great discoveries genuinely made by leaving something in a drawer. Marie and Pierre Curie named the effect radioactivity and spend years boiling down tons of ore in a leaking shed to pull out a few grains of radium, which glows and is warm to the touch and never cools. Her notebooks are still radioactive. They're kept in lead-lined boxes, and you sign a waiver to read them. So where is the heat coming from? Everything you have ever burned got smaller. This doesn't. You go looking inside. You take the thinnest sheet of gold you can beat out, and you fire the rock's invisible spray at it, expecting the spray to pass straight through, because gold leaf is nothing, it's a held breath. Almost all of it does. And then 1 in 10,000 comes back at you. Something in there is small and unbelievably dense, and it will not be pushed. Ernest Rutherford, whose people run this in 1909, says it's as if you'd fired a 15-inch shell at a sheet of tissue paper, and it had bounced back and hit you. That's your answer. Every speck of everything is mostly empty, with a tiny savage knot at the middle of it. And the knot is where the heat lives. A handful of ore is holding more fire than the entire forest you've been feeding into your hearth, and it's letting it out one crumb at a time over an unimaginable stretch of years, and there is nothing you can do to hurry it, unless you go in and take it. Your first 100 attempts to break the knot fail, and they fail for a reason you can't see. The knot is charged. Everything you can throw is charged. They shove each other apart before contact. You're trying to touch two magnets together the wrong way round, and no amount of arm gets it done. What you need is a piece of ammunition that the knot cannot feel coming. A heavy thing with no charge on it at all, which is not a thing that exists. James Chadwick finds it in 1932, and it's called the neutron, and it walks into the middle of an atom the way you'd walk into an unlocked hut. You load one in, expecting a chip or a crack. The atom comes apart into two other elements, different substances, lighter ones. You started with the heaviest thing you'd ever picked up, and you finished holding two things that were never in it, and everything that's missing left is heat. Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann get the same impossible result in December 1938, and can't bring themselves to believe their own chemistry. It's Lise Meitner, exiled in Sweden, who works out what it means over Christmas, sitting on a log in the snow doing arithmetic with her nephew, Otto Frisch, who has followed her out there on skis. Hahn takes the Nobel alone. Nobody has to point out the next part, because you've just watched it happen. When the atom splits, it throws out neutrons of its own, 2 or 3, free. You put that together with what you're holding. 1 neutron in, several neutrons out, and every one of those can go find another atom, which means you don't have to keep feeding it. You have to feed it once. It feeds itself, faster every heartbeat, and the numbers double and double and don't stop doubling. You, being the genius you are, don't even blink. Leo Szilard has the same thought waiting at a traffic light in London in 1933, and steps off the curb into a completely different century. So you pile up every scrap of ore in the valley and wait for it to feed itself. Nothing happens. It sits there being slightly warm, and it will sit there being slightly warm for 100 million years, and now you have to find out why. The first reason is the one that eats the next several years of your life. The ore is not one substance. There are two kinds of the heavy metal in it, identical in every way you can test. Same color, same behavior, same reactions, the same in every respect a person can measure, and only one of them splits. The other one just absorbs your neutrons and sulks. And the useful kind is not most of it, or half of it, or a tenth of it. It's 7 parts in 1,000. 1 atom in 140. You cannot separate them by chemistry, because to chemistry they are the same thing. The only difference is weight, by about 1 part in 100. So the entire problem becomes sorting a mountain of identical gray powder by the fact that some grains are 1% heavier, and every method that works is monstrous. Turning the metal into a gas and pushing it through a barrier 10,000 times because the lighter one gets through very slightly more often, or spinning it hard enough to fling the heavy kind outward. When this actually gets built at Oak Ridge in the 1940s, it needs its own power stations, and there's a copper shortage on. So the coils get wound with thousands of tons of silver borrowed from the National Treasury and counted back afterwards. Now here's the part that should make you sit down. This has already happened, on its own, with nobody watching. In Gabon, in a seam of ore at a place called Oklo, a natural deposit went critical and genuinely ran, splitting atoms and making heat, groundwater seeping in to keep it going and boiling off to shut it down, cycling like that for a few 100,000 years. It was found in 1972, when French technicians ran routine checks on Gabonese ore and discovered some of the good kind was missing. Something had used it, and the only reason it could happen is timing. The splitting kind decays faster than the useless kind, so the further back you go, the more of it there is. 2 billion years ago, ordinary uranium straight out of the ground was about 3% of the good stuff, rich enough to catch fire by itself in wet rock, with no one there to arrange it. You are not doing anything the universe hasn't done unsupervised. You are simply extremely late, and the entire titanic apparatus of separation exists to undo the slow leak of 2 billion years. Right. Second reason it isn't working. Your neutrons are too fast. A neutron leaves a split atom moving like a thrown spear, and at that speed it goes straight past the next atom without engaging. It's through the doorway before the door knows. To make it stick, you have to slow it down, which is the most counterintuitive sentence in the whole business, and you do it by making it bounce off things roughly its own size on the way. Very pure carbon works. Water where the hydrogen is a bit heavier than usual works better. Very pure. That word is carrying a war. A trace of boron in your carbon, the kind of contamination nobody would think to check for, swallows neutrons quietly and kills the whole reaction, and you will never find out why. There are programs that die on exactly this and go to their graves thinking the physics was against them. Third reason, and this one nearly finishes you. The thing has 2 settings, and they're off and runaway. Below a certain size, it does nothing forever. Above it, the doubling wins, and it cooks itself in a fraction of a second. What you need is to hold it precisely at the boundary, where each split causes exactly one more split, for hours by hand, and you have no hand fast enough. Nobody does. A generation of neutrons lives about 1,000th of a heartbeat. You are saved by something you did not earn and could not have predicted. A small fraction of the neutrons, under 1 in 100, don't come out with the others. They come out seconds later, dawdling out of the fragments after the fact. And that ridiculous little lag is the entire margin. It stretches the machine's reflexes from instantaneous to slow enough for a person to reach out and adjust something. Every reactor that has ever been operated by a human being is operated inside that gap. It's a rounding error in the physics, and it's the only reason any of this is a machine instead of an event. So you build the brakes to fit the gap. Rods of something that gulps neutrons and gives nothing back. Cadmium, boron, slid in to smother it and drawn out to let it breathe. And you build the wall. You build the wall because of the sore on your hand, and because of everyone who worked this out before the wall existed and paid for it slowly. Then you stack it. Layers of the pure carbon, slugs of the metal set into it in a lattice, higher and wider, a black graphite hill going up in a room that was never meant for it, under the spectator stands of a disused sports field in Chicago, in a squash court, in December 1942. 45,000 blocks. No shielding at all. No cooling. A man stands on top of the pile with an axe and a rope, and the rope holds a rod, and his single job is to cut it if things go wrong. Below him, 3 men wait with buckets of cadmium solution to throw into the stack. Enrico Fermi calls the rod out an inch at a time and reads the counters, and then he says the reaction is self-sustaining, and everyone stands there listening to a clicking noise for 28 minutes. Eugene Wigner produces a bottle of Chianti he has been hiding in a wardrobe for exactly this. They drink it out of paper cups without a toast. the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction on Earth, apart from the one in Gabon that nobody attended, put out about half a watt, less heat than the candle in the corner. Which leaves the last insult. You have unlocked the densest energy in the universe, a hill of metal quietly annihilating itself. And to get any use out of it, you have to boil water and blow the steam at a wheel. That's it. That's the machine. The most sophisticated object ever assembled by human beings. And the business end of it is a kettle. In a desert in Idaho in 1951, the first electricity ever produced this way goes into 4 light bulbs. And the men present are so pleased that they write their names on the wall. You go home. You put your thing in a pit outside the hut and you pull the rod out an inch. And the hearth is warm. And it stays warm. And nothing needs to be brought to it, ever again. And you go to sleep. Now watch what everyone actually does with it. The chief arrives on day 2 and explains that the pit is on land that has always been his, a claim nobody has heard before, and nobody can disprove, because until last week the land was a bank of gravel that everybody urinated on. Warmth is now allocated. There is a list. The list is read out. Grack is put in charge of the rods, which was nobody's plan, and has made him the most powerful person in the settlement for the 3rd time in his life. He does not know how any of it works. He knows which rod goes in and roughly how far, and he has correctly identified that this is enough. He has started saying, "I'll see what I can do," in a way that means no. An elder will not accept that there is no fire in it. He can feel that it's hot. Hot things are fed. He has been caught twice now putting kindling down the pit, and both times he has explained, patiently, as if to a child, that he is helping. The 3rd time he brings a small offering of fat. He is not being difficult. Everything he has ever known about heat is true, and this is the one exception, and nobody can explain it to him in words that exist yet. The ground around the pit stays dry and warm through the whole winter, in a ring about 9 paces across, and by spring 4 families have moved their huts into the ring, and there is now a dispute about the ring, and the dispute about the ring will outlive every person involved in it. A man wears a small bright piece of it on a cord because it glows and because people look. He is admired for about a season and a half. Afterwards, nobody wears one, and nobody quite says why, and the ones already made get quietly walked out to the far side of the river. Somebody boils water in it. This is, technically, the correct and intended use, and yet when he does it for stew, everyone is furious with him and cannot articulate what he's done wrong. Podrick's village refuses to build one. They have opinions about it. They hold gatherings about it. They are, for the record, entirely correct about the sore on your hand and about the ring and about the thing on the cord. And they are so unbearable about being correct that 2 families move to your settlement specifically to get away from them, and they arrive cold and are put on the list. Then someone works out that it doesn't switch off. It only goes quiet. The pit will be dangerous for longer than anyone can count in seasons, longer than the language will last, longer than the settlement, longer than any story about anybody currently alive. So a marker goes up so that people not yet born know to stay away, and the marker gets argued about at enormous length. Because nobody can agree on a symbol that will still mean don't to someone who won't know a single word you know. 3,000 years of your descendants will find that marker, decide its guarding treasure, and dig. And you still get woken in the night, because the rods have to be watched, and the readings have to be taken. And it turns out that a thing that never needs feeding still needs a person sitting next to it in the dark at the coldest hour, and everyone has agreed that person is you, on the grounds that you're the one who understands it. You built a fire that eats nothing so you could sleep. You now have the same shift, forever, and the fire is bigger. Subscribe, and next time, put another log on. It's easy.